Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowagowan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time, I was made to watch Sliding Doors.
Yes, Sliding Doors. This is the movie that made everyone believe Gwyneth Paltrow is British. And
Yes.
also launched a lot of, in some cases, rather unfortunate haircuts. Possibly even mine. I don't think I was inspired directly by this movie, but I have had some pixie haircuts that I couldn't pull off maybe as well as I thought. So, yeah. Anyway, this is Sliding Doors, the 1998 rom-com with Gwyneth Paltrow playing British. Also, John Hannah, John Lynch. Don't worry, you'll be able to tell them apart. And Jean Triplehorn, and that's it, basically. A lot of British actors that I had never heard of who probably are famous in Britain, but not in the U.S.
Right. Yeah. And it's not spooky anymore.
It's not.
It's regular type.
It's November. We're just regular type.
Yes.
We're just no more spooktacular. Although,
Yes.
I don't know. Would you call this in any way scary?
No.
No.
I guess
okay.
not.
Okay. I would say it's scary if you're an adulterer,
Yes.
because the moral is you're going to get found out one way or another.
Yes.
So don't do that. But, and it's also scary if you're a single woman, I guess, because your boyfriend's going to cheat on you no matter what. Or you're going to think he's cheating on you no matter what. And you're
Pretty much.
So, yeah, the essential, usually I find the movie description on IMDb and read it out, but this is a very basic plot. Gwyneth Paltrow is a woman living in London with her serious boyfriend. And she goes to work and she's coming home, and then two parallel realities happen and one of them, she misses the train to get home, and the other, she gets the train. When she gets the train, she gets home and finds out that her boyfriend is cheating on her, and the other one, she does not. And various things ensue from either one of those realities. So this is a little bit of a callback to when we talked about Keeping the Faith several months ago. I talked about the concept of the multiverse, where there are sort of decision points in your life, and you go left, you go right, and you have different lives depending on which you chose. Well, this was not really something that she chose, but still different realities for her life, except in this one, it seems like she ends up at the same place regardless. It just takes a while to get there. That's, I think, what the end of the movie implies.
Yeah.
Which I don't exactly like. I don't sort of like that your life is predestined. It's just how long does it take you to get there? I don't know if I really like that. But
I mean,
well,
maybe we can talk about that more. But
yeah, we'll kind of get to that. But
you won't get this reference, but she's a variant.
I definitely won't.
Yeah.
No.
So speaking of the multiverse, you didn't watch Loki with me.
I did not. No.
That's what it's all about. It's all about that there are these decision points, and it forks, and the show Loki is all about this agency that comes in and then cleans up the forks so that they don't get out of control. But yeah, it's very, very much, there's a variant timeline, and you get to watch that play out.
Okay. So which Gwyneth Paltrow is the variant? The one with the mousy long brown hair, or the one with the blonde pixie where she actually looks like Gwyneth?
I mean, probably the main one, or the long hair.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that's preserved. So if we were going with Loki logic, the timeline that is preserved is the one that was the main line. You know, that was the one that should have continued.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to apply another universe and television shows logic to this movie from 1997.
Surprising. Things don't always transfer.
Yes, but effectively, yes. There's a junction point, and she goes two different ways. Yeah. And from filmmaking perspective, they do a pretty good job with it. I think it was at first. In the let's call it the main timeline, the one that she ends up in,
with long hair.
Yes, she initially gets hit on the head, and I'm thinking, okay, that's how they're going to do it. She's going to have a bandage on her head the rest of the movie, a little Band-Aid over her eyebrow, and that's how we're going to supposed to be meant to tell. But they went way farther than that.
Well, and they went to the hair. So in the timeline where Helen gets home and discovers her boyfriend is cheating on her, she immediately leaves him and moves in with her friend. There's like no discussion about this. This is like, we're done. There's no forgiving this. Yeah. And her best friend immediately says, okay, you need a change of image. So they immediately go to the hairstylist and she gets a drastic cut. And this makeover happened faster than I remembered, but for filmmaking purposes, yes, you need it so you can tell which one is which.
Absolutely.
I sort of enjoy how it's clear that cutting off that much hair doesn't take a long time, but taking her from that mousy brown to that platinum blonde takes a long time. Yeah. Which actually, yes, that probably is an all-day process to get the hair, and there's highlights and there's stacking and all this other stuff. Like, I've never had my hair colored that blonde. Even colored anything besides like put some brown on top to color the grays, and even that I haven't had done in a very long time. But I think that could be like an all-day process. So the best friend is clearly like sitting on the sofa like, okay, I've read all the magazines. What do I do now? I'm just gonna sit here and stare at the ceiling.
Yeah, like little inside baseball for the ladies.
Yes, right? So many makeover scenes. It's just like boom, 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 done. 10 minutes, and this is clearly a long thing, which I think is funny.
Quite.
So yeah, British Gwyneth. I feel like a lot of people, I don't think anymore, but a lot of people were under the impression for quite a long time that she was British because she had done this and Shakespeare in Love and Emma, and I'm sure there are others.
Yeah, you could have walked up to a person on the sidewalk in like 1997. Yeah. And so like for $1,000, is Gwyneth Paltrow British or American? Yeah, and at least half the people would have gotten it wrong.
Up to I think like 2003 or 4, I think, and it doesn't her name being Gwyneth. Not if her name was like Sarah or something, there's something about Gwyneth is just obscure enough
and formal enough. Yeah. I think I always think of British people. Yeah, there are no British Ricks. They're all Richards, that kind of thing. Like, right? Yeah, like it's always the more formal version of the name.
Yeah. So and I don't know. I haven't heard anyone comment on her accent, but it seems to me like her accent work is pretty good. I don't know. I always think it's interesting to get a native speaker's reaction to someone's accent work in movies.
Well, and I think in a movie like this, when she's surrounded by native speakers, it could be much more obvious. And I feel like she did a good job because she did a regional dialect. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't like it was probably London, something like that. But just listening to it and having heard enough different British accents, and even just all the ones in this movie,
there are a lot.
You could hear that she was being pretty consistent. Some of the stuff felt a little forced, bloody this and wanker that.
That's just the dialogue. There's a point when she says to her best friend, "I'm over him," and her friend is like, "No, you're not." And she says, "What do you mean I'm not? How do you know I'm not?" And I thought like there was a vocal coach there going, "Don't say the T, just drop it and not." That was a little funny. It is funny how many different regional accents there are. James, the guy that she ends up with, the guy who's not her cheating boyfriend, is Scottish, I think. And then her best friend is, I don't know, kind of Yorkshire. I don't know. I'm not very good with British accents. Jerry, the cheating boyfriend, the actor is from Northern Ireland. So maybe, I don't know. But there is one American in the movie. The woman that Jerry is cheating on Helen with, which is his ex, who he has gone back to, played by Jean Triplehorn. And can we talk about her for a minute? Because, wow, like it would be very easy for her to be this cartoonish villain. And she kind of is because she's a little over the top. Yeah. But for one thing, like she's kind of hot.
Yes. I mean, like if in like between now that when this movie was made in like 2000, 2001, like, there were a couple of ladies in that working that same, brunette. There was her and Rene Rousseau and a few others that were working that same. And like she's choice.
It doesn't hurt that the first time we see her, she's wearing, actually you don't get a very good shot of her, but she's wearing a bustier and a push-up bra and probably like a thong and some thigh-high stockings and stuff. And so from the jump, we are told like she is hot to trot, just plain hot. Years and years ago, I want to say like 20 or 25, I read a review of, I want to say it was Wings of the Dove, but it was talking about Helena Bonham Carter, and it described her as very creamy. This was a young Helena Bonham Carter, and I think she also was brunette, porcelain skin, and so creamy since then means to me like just a little bit plump in the right places, like kind of pouty lips, a little bit of peaches and cream complexion, you know, that kind of. And yeah, so Jean Triplehorn here is creamy. Like that's not going to mean anything to anybody except for me, I guess. But yeah, creamy is a good. It sounds gross now that I'm saying it enough. I don't mean it to be gross, but
would you say she's berries and creamy?
No.
Okay. Oh, by the time this episode airs, that will be so over. Sorry.
I think it's over now, isn't it?
I think it's in the waning days of berries and cream.
I am like in the last wave of discovering all the TikToks.
I've been keeping Marian up. I told her about the Bones No Bones. I told her about berries and cream. I told her about Oh No Our Table.
He told me
keeping her young.
He told me about Bones No Bones, and the next day I read about it in the New York Times, which is kind of the official sign that like it's past its peak.
Yes,
the trend.
They were on Good Morning America. Like like it's over.
But I knew about it 12 hours before it was in the Times, so I'm not.
You're not old yet.
No,
you're still you're on a razor's edge of you're bouncing back and forth between hip, young, and old.
I think what I am is not too bad for an old person.
Yeah.
Which is,
cool. She knew that.
That's fine. I can handle that.
Yeah. If you had the time, you could have opened one of your work meetings with, it's a Bones Day, so let's get going. Or something.
Yeah. I think I can't anymore because
now it's too mainstream. I'll put in some time tonight. I'll find you the next hot trend.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll get you on that for your Monday morning meeting.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, Jean Triplehorn. Creamy, but also I enjoy how she is unapologetic about who she is and what she wants, and she wants Jerry, played by John Lynch. Why does she want him? I don't know. He is a sad sack from the beginning.
Well,
he is clearly led around by the nose by Helen, frankly, and by Lydia, and the only reason he has the wherewithal to have an affair is that Lydia probably showed up and was like, hey, we're gonna bone now.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, because also he is clearly scamming her into supporting him while he writes his book. Like he is clearly the put me through medical school and then we'll be great on the other end.
Yeah.
Kind of sleaze bag.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Well, that's true. Or
those are the vibes I got.
Yeah. He doesn't seem like he has, frankly, the spine to be a true scammer. Like, I feel like maybe, because at one point he says, I'm a novelist. I'm never going to finish this thing. Like, I think he does have some intention of writing. It's just, he's too busy with two women. Or maybe he's, like, I could say, oh, I'm working on my first novel, which, I sort of am, but I'm never going to finish it. So I'm not even making the pretense of, support me while I write it, because it's not happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, he is a little bit of, I think he kind of, he's almost written both ways, because I definitely picked up serious deadbeat boyfriend vibes, but also, yes, he also seems a little whipped.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't like to say whipped because that, but he is not the alpha in either of his relationships, really.
Sure.
But I enjoy Lydia as just, she's very dramatic.
She's written.
I sort of enjoy it.
She's written to be very American, I think.
Yeah,
like
that's
in this
probably,
British movie, she is written to be very American. Like she is definitely, because I'm pretty sure the writer director is British.
I think so.
And it was very like, he's sitting around. He's like, "What are Americans like?" And someone's like, "Oh, they're real assholes, right?" He's at the pub here. Would you like me?
Yes.
Should we introduce the third character?
Yes. One comes up and says, "It's Tuesday, isn't it?"
It's Tuesday, isn't it, bruv? And then his Scottish dwarf friend comes up and like, those Americans, they're always on the, what are they doing? I'm available for voice acting if anyone needs any characters. You need your answering machine message.
Right. So had you seen that actor in anything before?
What actor?
John Lynch, Jerry.
He looked familiar, but no.
So he was in the two things that I've seen him in. I keep thinking I've seen him in more, but I think it's just two. The series The Fall with Gillian Anderson and Jamie Dornan, which was very good. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. But he is somebody high up in the police department in Belfast, but he's also such a sad sack. And he has his former flame, Gillian Anderson, comes back into town, and it's Gillian Anderson. So, she is in control of everything.
Yes.
And reads him like a book, and he's just stumbling around like, and you're like, how did he get to this position? Same person, really.
Yeah.
And then he was also in this movie called Some Mother's Son, where he played an IRA prisoner. So that doesn't fit with the rest of them. Yeah. But between this movie and The Fall, he is not an alpha male for sure.
He exudes that beta energy.
Which is to be clear, that's not bad necessarily, but I'm just like, how did you rise in the police force? How did you manage to keep two women? I don't get it. But all this to say, I don't see why either of these women is with him. Yeah. And there's another version of this movie where at the end they become friends and they go off and, they kick him to the curb, and he waits tables for the rest of his life. Right. And they go off and they have fun.
Yeah. No, if this movie was written today, yeah, in the end, they don't it's not just that, then they're together. The two ladies are together, and then they're, and they go off and they're, and then, he's left waiting tables.
And the guy says to him, what do you do in your time off? And, Yeah. That character, by the way, apparently the director of this movie. Yes. You read that IMDb page too.
I didn't, but I saw a picture of the director.
Oh, okay.
On IMDb and recognized him.
Okay.
And also, like, he's credited as like trash man or like some derogatory. I forget what the credit was, but it's credited as like,
that is a small thing that always delights me in movie credits. The names that they give to these one-off characters who were on screen for like 10 seconds and are just there for a wisecrack or something, and it'll be like oafish man.
Yeah.
Unhappy customer.
Woman in red dress. Like, right. Like there's good ones and there's bad ones. Yeah. How detailed do you want to be? And then there are the ones where you can tell, like, this guy's been working on the screenplay way too long because it's like, Johnny Jefferson, and he's got less than one line in the movie. Like, he's got a name and a backstory.
Yes. Let's see. Oh, here's the thing I noticed.
Ooh.
So one of the things that delays one of the Helens, so she doesn't get her train. She goes outside, and then there's like, oh, hey, no more trains.
Yeah, I love how the announcement is just like, you got to find some other way home.
Yeah, Deus Ex Machina, I believe they call that. Yeah. And she goes outside to get a cab, and in broad daylight, someone comes up and tries to steal her purse, and she is wresting it away from him, and she's slammed into a tree.
Yeah.
And the cab driver, she was trying to hail a cab, and the cab pulls up and says, oh my gosh, that's a nasty cut. You're going to need stitches. And she goes to the hospital. And I was like, this is clearly British healthcare, because in the US, you're just like, yeah, that's going to leave a scar. You're sorry.
Like, I might stop by the Walgreens and get some of those little bandages that are supposed to hold the wound together.
Yeah. But then she's at the hospital and I don't see stitches. It just looks like a Band-Aid. I'm like,
yeah, she definitely doesn't get stitches
at home. So maybe the advantage of our healthcare is you don't have to spend all day at the hospital to get a tiny little bandage. I don't know.
Or maybe the medical diagnosis skills of folksy British cab driver are not on par.
This is
like, oi, love, you're gonna need stitches, and he takes. You all right? I feel like I should just keep doing my various British accents.
so you guys, it's been a rough period for me. I may laugh some more and have some laughing fits. So if you're like, why is she laughing? It's not that funny. It's not. I just have a lot of pressure.
Yes. Well, speaking of laughing, I'll do the one point I contributed to this.
Yes.
This is a weird thing, and I feel like a lot of filmmakers go out of their way not to do this unless they are very much being set in the time. Like, you know, like if your movie is set in the 70s and you want to say, how about that stuff with that Nixon, huh? You know, or what about that Vietnam? You know, you want to add to the idea that you're in, but this movie is timeless. Like without the cars and the clothes, you could set this anytime, you know, like it's not, they didn't go out of their way to make this the 90s.
Right.
But the movie is riddled with dialogue and there's even at least one story point that like dates it to the 90s so hard. There's a joke about Baywatch. Mm-hmm. There is a joke about watching the next episode of Seinfeld.
Yes. Well, there's a Woody Allen reference. There's don't think anybody would make offhand right now.
Right. There's one other I can't remember. There's two more. One of them I noted but forgot, and the other one that I remembered is there's a whole ass plot point that revolves around *6ix9ine on your on your touch tone phone.
Yeah.
Because she you know the mistress calls and.
Jerry always says, "Oh, hi, Russell."
Hi, Russell,
it's pretending that it's his friend.
And then she goes and Paltrow. What was his character's name? Heidi.
Helen.
Right,
By this point, Helen is wise.
She's and she picks up the phone and British *6ix9ines it and gets the mistress on the other line. So you know, like that is such a not that those things don't exist, but you know, caller ID for one would. She could in a modern version of this movie, she would pick up his cell phone and look at his caller ID.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it is so, it didn't need to date itself so hard to the 90s.
I don't think it was. I think it was just, I don't know. I think any movie is going to have pop culture references and it just.
So they would have pop culture references like the Monty Python reference.
Sure.
But they had references that were timely to the release of the movie. Like he says, I don't even need to watch the next episode of Seinfeld because it's a show that's still in production at the time of this movie.
Yes.
Baywatch was a joke at this time of a show at this time in the 90s. I wish I could remember the fourth one, but I can't remember the fourth one. But there was another reference that I was like, that is just add it to the list.
It's not the Gary Glitter line, is it?
No, because that is another sort of reference that you would put in. That's a 70s reference.
Speaking of, do you know who Gary Glitter is?
I know who Gary Glitter is.
Okay, Gary, At one point, James is talking about like heartthrobs of his youth that all the girls were crazy for, and you know, Donny Osmond and David Cassidy and Gary Glitter. And if you don't know who he is, which I did not the first time I saw this, he's the guy who sings rock and roll, not sings, whatever, Rock and Roll Part 2.
That you hear at all the sports games.
Yes, mostly the Bulls, I think, or at least the Bulls.
So at all sports games.
Okay, well, when I was in my teens, it was the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, that's every minor league hockey game I ever went to as a kid that played at some point, you know, during a dead puck.
Okay, yeah.
You know.
Dun, 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 dun. That one.
Yep.
Do you like my rendition? I'm available for parties.
Hey.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes, it's wonderful. You can do the backing track to the voicemails that jobs that I get as a result of my dead on British accents.
Scottish accents over Gary Glitter. This is a thing that the world has been needing.
Yes,
we are
100%.
all about it.
100%. But I mean, you know, this movie is fine. Like I liked what are the boyfriends? The first one, the deadbeat,
Jerry,
and the other one is John,
James,
whatever these names. Yeah. So this isn't relevant yet, but will be relevant on a future episode.
Okay.
Do you know who? What movie franchise that is a very dear part of our relationship? John Hannah is in.
The Matrix. No.
I will say he is in this movie, but Billy Zane is not.
Delightful.
That is a joke for the two of us and one clerk at a GameStop in Greensboro, North Carolina.
That's excellent. We're going to explain this at some point.
So yes, when we watch The Mummy, but he is in The Mummy. He plays the brother of one of the characters.
I can see
bumbling,
that. Yeah.
Sort of a schemer, but he is 100% comedy relief. So seeing him in this as a romantic lead. It was hilarious.
But still kind of comic relief,
100%.
Right?
They 100% cast him for his comedy chops, but it's just so funny. You know, it would be like seeing the first time that someone was like, "Oh, Hugh Laurie's going to be in a dramatic series about being a doctor." Everybody in British is like, "The guy from
Jeeves and Wooster."
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like that. Like seeing him in this, and like his character is 100%, quotes the Monty Python, Spanish Inquisition sketch, like word for word.
I have to say, like, I feel like being around him would be exhausting after a while. I hope that all the Monty Python stuff is just like his nervous energy for, oh my God, this is Gwyneth Paltrow, I need to impress her. Or when he's around mortal women, he's much more chill.
Yeah, but you will. Yeah, I think you will enjoy seeing him in The Mummy when we do. That is 100% on the list for many reasons.
Yes,
and we will explain.
I am very excited about the idea of seeing The Mummy because I've heard a lot of good things about it for completely other reasons.
Yeah, well, I don't want to put it. It's not a horror movie, but I don't want to put it too close to Halloween. So we'll do it maybe by the end of the year.
All right.
It's not a Christmas movie though, so maybe
we'll find out when Billy Zane's birthday is and do it then.
Our first annual Billy Zane watch another entry in the Mummy franchise.
Yeah. Can I talk about something else here?
Can I stop you?
No.
So go for it.
Okay, the time. So many elements of time here are just completely bonkers.
Yeah.
So first of all, the beginning of the movie, Helen is going to work and she shows up and everyone at work is pissed at her and she gets fired because she took 4 bottles of vodka from the office. It's a PR firm, so they have a big liquor cabinet. She took 4 bottles of vodka home for personal use. Okay, first of all, that's not okay. Why would you think it's okay?
That's not cool.
But also, she's like, oh, but I got 4 to replace it. And they're like, well, still, it's not okay.
That didn't help us on Friday when we needed it, Friday afternoon. Or
right. Whatever. So one would assume that it's a Monday. Sure. And then she gets home. This is in that when she didn't get the train. And so she misses catching her boyfriend and Lydia in flagrante.
Yeah. Long hair timeline.
Yes. And she gets in. She says, oh, Jerry. And she says, wait, Helen, is that you? And she says, no, it's your bit of stuff. It's Wednesday, shag day. Remember? Ha, 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 ha. Okay, but so it's Wednesday? What? I don't. Right. So what day is it? Okay. So also, at some point, James says to Helen, oh, that's one of the downsides of being a Gemini. Haha, twins. Haha. Okay, I get it. Yes. But Gemini would put her birthday, which she just mentioned, she took home the vodka for her birthday party.
Yeah. May
or June.
Sure.
We go like months and it's still May or June.
Sure.
Like this, I find this very annoying.
Yeah. I think the intention, they do signpost the time passage.
Yeah.
In one scene by saying 2 months.
Yeah.
That it's been 2 months since they've had sex.
Right.
So probably the total of the movie is between 2 and 3 months of time passage. Also, she gets pregnant in there somewhere. So there's got to be a minimal amount of time.
Yeah. When she's paging through her calendar, it's June and she goes back to May for when she last had her. So I'm just like, I don't, or maybe it's a very compressed and it's only like 2 weeks. It's weird. Also, it's the kind of movie that doesn't, just like with the 90s stuff, like it doesn't need to care about that. The fact that they drop these references in complicates it. You know, like the fact that they even mention months or Gemini or any of this stuff, and her birthday, like it didn't have to be your birthday. Well, that's true. It's the Gemini cleverness that screws them. If they had not had that, then we wouldn't have a problem.
Or not had her mention it was her birthday.
Yeah.
It could have then been any time.
Yeah.
And it could have just been one of those things where like the nerds on YouTube who are trying to establish a date would have been like, oh, and she flips through this planner that shows that it's June here, and then she flips back to May. So clearly the contents of this movie.
Since I have just told you that I notice these things, you calling me a nerd on YouTube?
Yeah. Do you realize that the night we met, there was a fork that happened, and there's another version of you right now that has a wildly successful 1 million+ subscriber YouTube channel where all you do is date movies that don't explicitly tell you the dates that they happen in?
Yes. Do I have better hair in that timeline?
You know, because you didn't get with me, you still have the short hair, and it's not flattering at all.
I'm still trying not to piss off that one stylist, so I'm still going back and saying, just shape it. And she cuts it super short again, and I say, oh, no.
Yeah, you're still with your first bad doctor that you didn't. You still work at the News and Record. Like, you are still...
Oh, I don't know about that.
Your life moved nowhere, except you're wildly successful, pulling in probably $30,000 a month on your YouTube channel. So, you know, that's
tomato.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that I saved you from that fate, but you know, kind of basically did.
I'm feeling very negged right about now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So this movie, you know, the guy that directed this movie also directed Johnny English, which is the Rowan Atkinson.
All I remember from that is Natalie Imbruglia in the trailer going, "You've got to save your country."
Right. Yes. So it's a British treasure.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. So we find out late in the movie there's been these other shots of another woman with James.
Yeah.
And at first, they're just having a conversation, and it could be a sister, could be anything. And then one of his friends says to him, does she, Helen, know about Claudia? Oh, no, I have to tell her. Okay, well, Claudia could be a daughter.
Yeah.
You know. And then we see him smooch this other woman on the mouth, clearly something. Yeah. And it turns out that they are married. And he says and Helen is furious and is like, oh, men again. Fuck all y'all. Get away from me, blah, 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 blah. And he says, oh, no, I'm married, but we're separated. And she's pretending to still be my wife to make my mother happy.
Right. My terminally ill mother, we're holding up a farce for her so that she thinks, that I'm...
And presumably this solves all their problems, but then that version of Helen gets hit by a car and dies. So,
Yeah. She just buys it immediately, too. I love it.
Well,
she's just like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So... Yeah, like, do we buy this as I think I would be like, okay, you need to sort your shit out.
Yeah.
Actually get divorced. And also then, like, if you're keeping up with this farce for your mother, what does that leave me? Like, I never get to meet your mother? What? Right. That's weird. And in these kind of situations, terminally ill mothers live for an inconveniently long time.
Right, the damn British healthcare system.
I've read a lot of stories about this where the man is just like, well, we have to wait till my mother dies. And then the mother is like 115 right. and still hanging on.
There's a fork that happened with Princess Di and Prince Charles. Just have to wait till Mummy dies.
Right. Yeah. So, do we buy this explanation?
No. I mean, I think we're meant to buy it.
So you think he's is he actually a sleaze?
I don't know. Maybe. But like, if she's actually his wife, he is like effortlessly available for date nights and sleepovers. And, his situation is extremely uncomplicated. Mm-hmm. Versus the other situation that we're seeing play out of infidelity. Mm-hmm.
Where, Jerry has to go through all these machinations and lies and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
This is one of those things where I feel like I'm going too far with the Monday morning quarterbacking, but what does this add to the movie? Like what it does, I could understand if it was the reason that she got hit by a car.
I mean, it kind of was because she wouldn't have been on the bridge if she weren't upset about the thing.
But that's not important. Like, you can get her on the bridge any way you want to. Mm-hmm. She could be on the bridge. He could like pop a question of marriage out of nowhere, and she could, go to the bridge like she's already established to think. Yeah, and and it like you could get her to the bridge any number of ways. There's a lot of screen time and a lot of, I mean, I get the point of it is to make it seem like is he a good guy or not? Because but I think there's to me that would be much better served by just being a red herring, and then he walks up to her with an 8-year-old girl and says, oh, this is my daughter, Claudia. Yeah, like I feel like that would have just been such a. It's a red herring that is sort of like it creates. As an audience member, it makes me feel suspicious of him when you've already been made to feel protective of her.
Yeah.
And I guess what I would have preferred is a much cleaner, good timeline, bad timeline kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Where that whole subplot just wasn't even there. Because I don't feel like it added anything other than to cast suspicion, and then the payoff is so you're just going to believe you just believe that he just tells you that and that's it.
Well, yeah, I would have liked to see it more maybe from his point of view, like when the friend says, "Oh, you're going to tell her about Claudia." Oh, yeah, I don't know. Hey, listen, I know you're not together, but she's not going to like something where we know this is not the guy being sketchy. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know the motivations behind it, but yeah, as an audience member, as someone who's watching and absorbing the story, it just made me feel. I mean, and maybe they want you to feel like neither of these timelines are actually good, so that they can, Spanish Inquisition you at the end and say, actually, this was a good timeline until it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's helpful to label either of them good or bad, because honestly, you go back to the concept of the multiverse.
Yeah.
If this is truly a multiverse, there's like billions of timelines. And some are better than others in certain ways and not in other ways. And there's no good or bad. They just are.
Yeah. And I guess when I say good or bad, I'm talking about hyperbolically. Like in this moment, we are being presented with 2 timelines.
Sure.
One of them is far more slanted towards the negative, where she is going through this relationship and being deceived. The other one is more slanted towards the positive, where she gets out of that relationship and finds someone who's seemingly right for her.
Yeah.
And I would prefer them to be cleaner, but it almost feels like the kind of thing that you get as like a note from someone at the studio. Like the other timeline's too happy. It's too clean. We need something in there. Like cast some suspicion on him. Maybe he's actually a heel. I don't know. It just, given the 2 stories that I'm being presented, I would prefer a cleaner break between them, because there's a version of this movie where she doesn't get hit by a car, where there's this whole question of, was he lying? Was it he?
Can I ever trust you? I don't. Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
I got to say, that arrangement is very unsatisfactory, because even if it is true, okay, well, I can't really be with you until your mother dies. That's weird.
Right. Yeah, like I don't want to have to hide my relationship with you. Yeah, it opens up a whole new set of questions.
Yeah, that's. I would be like, give me a call when you sort your shit out.
Yeah,
or you've buried your mother, or that's none of that is.
Call me from the graveyard. Like, what are you proposing here?
I'm saying, like, if I can't be with you until your mother dies, then okay, I'm gonna. It's awkward.
Sliding doors 2.
Well, yeah. So now in the long hair timeline, long story. Helen falls down the stairs. People are always getting gravely. I mean, like, they have her on a ventilator after falling down the stairs. Like,
sure.
How long of a flight of stairs was this?
Well, I don't. And she's frail. She's fragile. Look at her. She's,
I guess,
98 pounds.
Yeah. So she's leaving the hospital, and the doctors are like, "Oh my gosh, you were very lucky. Like, it was lucky that she survived." Okay, fine.
Hey,
She's leaving the hospital. She discovered that Jerry's been cheating on her, this whole time. She's kicked him to the curb.
She's also pregnant in both these timelines.
Yes, loses the baby in both
by
timelines.
Each man.
Yeah. She's lost Jerry's baby, which is, very sad, but also you're unencumbered by this man now completely.
Yes.
And she's getting in the elevator, and James is leaving his mother's room, and they go down in the elevator together. And this is a callback to the beginning of the movie. She drops her earring, and he picks it up, and he says, "Cheer up, what the Monty Python boys say." And she says, "Oh, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition," which has been his line earlier in the timeline where they knew each other. And then they look at each other like, wait, how did I know that?
Yes.
And the implication is they're going to get together.
Yeah.
And they were fated all along, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
I don't know that I like that's the thing that her whole good life hinges on. I mean, unsurprisingly, I would like a woman's life to revolve around more than just her partner, her career, her friends, all those other things. She's got a good friend in Anna. She's maybe good at her job. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, welcome to romantic comedies written by men.
Yes. Also, again, I would find him exhausting to be with. I'm sure he's very funny and sweet. And all these things, but wow.
Well, but he does feel like, you were talking about nervous energy. Yeah. He feels a little bit like an introvert that has a switch he throws in public to be very over the top and sort of the center of attention to a certain degree.
That's true.
But then in their moments where they're alone, he's very, he's cracking jokes. Mm-hmm. He's cracking wise, but he's not, he's got like a Robin Williams switch that he can turn on and off.
Okay.
But I read it as that because I kind of have that.
Yes.
To a much lesser extent, where I can throw a switch and be personable, but I don't want to be.
Do you still have that switch? I don't
know. Do I?
I don't know.
I
don't think you flip it much anymore.
I think I flip it every time we do this podcast, frankly.
Okay, fair. But I'm saying you have leaned in deep to the social distancing, stay home thing. So
I haven't had to flip it.
Yeah.
Lately, yes. I'm confident it'll still be there when I toggle it next.
Brush the dust off just in case.
Yeah.
So that's okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about the everything. I mean, I think in the 1990s, the men who were writing romantic comedies, this is what they thought women wanted. All any woman wanted was true love with a good man. And let's not talk about why he was only married to this woman for 3 years and they're getting a divorce.
That's kind of weird. Yeah.
And she's a great lady, he goes out of his way to say how great she is that she's pretending that they're still married for his mom, then what was wrong? Was it so it wasn't her, then it was you,
I don't
even some throwaway line of just we just weren't compatible. We
married
were
for
great
a green
friends,
card
or we were great friends, but horrible lovers or whatever, whatever the case. But I think you can, I'm sure there's a website somewhere that just has a list of these, of where this is the sole goal.
And I remember reading a review of this when it first came out, or, near to when it first came out in, I don't know, Glamour or something like that. And it says the moral of the story is you end up with whoever you're meant to end up with, kind of no matter what other mistakes you make along the way, which at the time I found very comforting.
Yeah.
Now, not so much.
Why is that?
Because I hadn't found my person. I hadn't found any person yet. Yeah. And now I'm kind of like, well, I like the idea of, I don't like to think that everything about my life was predetermined. I like to think that I had some agency in these things.
I don't know. We had a pretty romantic comedy style meeting.
Yes.
I mean, it was very by chance.
Right.
Well,
right. So clearly that wasn't predestined.
What? I mean, I think we're going in the opposite direction.
If I hadn't gone to the bar, right. So if I hadn't gone to the bar that night, are you saying we would have met some other way? I don't.
No. What I'm saying is, I don't subscribe to the version of reality that this movie subscribes to, which is this self-correcting.
Well, yeah, that's what I.
Right. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I just mean, I guess we're the short hair universe. We're the one where the things lined up correctly.
Am I about to die after being hit by a car?
I mean, why do you think I'm trying to get you into bike riding?
that was cold. That was over the plate, as we say. That, oh boy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't know where I'm going with that.
I don't either.
But I just mean in general. My point I was making in general. But yeah, I guess this version of this movie subscribes to this self-correcting timeline kind of thing of like, yeah, you missed your opportunity. Like this was your first opportunity to meet your perfect mate. And now you're coming upon your second opportunity to meet him. And maybe we would have had a second opportunity.
It is a little bit, now that you mention it, self-correcting made me think of this. Did you ever see The Adjustment Bureau?
Yes.
The concept of that is like there is a predetermined timeline for everybody.
Yeah.
But occasionally people's free will or, glitches in the matrix interfere with that. And so the Adjustment Bureau is like these, I don't know, angels kind of who come back and just be like, nope, we're going to move that wire over there. We're going to move the train, So anytime, like, if you spill coffee on yourself, that's the Adjustment Bureau forcing you to be late so that you don't meet this person or that you do or, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Final Destination.
Yeah.
Thing of like, well, okay, you were supposed to die here.
Yeah.
But now death is going to get its pound of flesh. It's going to get you on the highway or, at the lumber mill or whatever.
So why, in this case, the Adjustment Bureau had her be hit by the car in the short hair timeline, I don't know. Or maybe there's some other final.
Well, that's right. That's since we're mixing all our metaphors, right. That's the Loki, that's the TVA from Loki cleaning up that timeline by hitting her with there was a TVA agent in the van that hit her. To kill her so that variant universe collapsed on itself.
Right. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sliding doors. I counted 2 sliding doors in this movie.
There were, Yes. Did you get it? Did you get it at the end? She's waiting for an elevator and she misses the first one.
Yeah.
And she doesn't freak out. And then the other one comes and there's James and they're in the elevator.
Actually, there's another sliding door when she finds out he's married. Or when she thinks he's married, she's like having a crisis by the sliding door, and it's like sliding back and forth.
Yeah.
So 3 slides. So hey, they're on brand here with the sliding doors
everywhere. Yes,
the train doors, the elevator doors, and the
good thing
sliding
it's
doors.
The 20th century where we have sliding doors,
modern sliding doors, and these touch tone phones.
Yes,
and they had the Matrix phones, the mobiles, where they had a little thing that.
The mouthpiece.
It flicks down, like it's covering the numbers, and then it.
Yeah.
They had those in the Matrix where they would deploy them like, give me
the peak of civilization in 1999. Can we talk about Russell for a second? This is Jerry's best friend who we only ever see. No, there's one other time he's not. Most of the time we see him, he is sitting in a pub with the beer in front of him.
Yeah.
He is hysterical.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't want to be married to him. I mean, he may be a great husband. I don't know, but I'm thinking not.
No.
He's hilarious and I don't know why he and Jerry are friends, because they don't. Right. Jerry doesn't seem to get anything from this friendship except for ridicule, which he deserves.
Yeah, like he's literally just there to heckle him.
Yeah,
just make fun of him.
Yes, which again deserved.
But I do think like if you're not sort of economical with the relationships that you maintain throughout your life, there is some sort of chaff like that ends up riding into your adulthood where you're just like, I don't even like this person. They're just here to point out my failings, or on the other side of that, I'm only friends with this person to make myself feel better
because I don't have to wait for Seinfeld to laugh.
Right, yeah.
Well, and you kind of think, are they hanging out? But no, Russell's always at the pub and Jerry shows up. Is it just like, I know he's going to be there, so let me go there and talk to him?
And I also feel like there's this stark contrast drawn between the 2 men where, what's the other one? James?
Yeah.
Is always surrounded by friends, and he has this large group of people that he fits in with, and he's outgoing, and he's on the rowing team, and literally Jerry only has
Russell.
Yeah, only has Russell,
who may or may not, like, we count him for half credit,
and that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it works effectively to sort of show these differences between, and she is also shown in the opening of the movie to be very outgoing, and she knows the guy at the bakery, and he's waiting with her order and so she's kind of shown to be very outgoing and much more compatible.
Yeah.
With James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Don't start a relationship with a novelist.
Yes.
Sorry, Dave.
I didn't start a relationship with a novelist.
True. True.
Though I may have encouraged your interest over time, and also I have literally proposed that you quit your job and write a novel. So
I feel like that is. I feel like I'm not a good
I'm the
plan.
Helen of this relationship.
Not a good plan at all.
I'm now the Helen of this relationship.
Just, I'm on the. So I can say to someone at some point, I'm on the pissing phone to Helen.
Yes.
Yeah, pissing is not an adjective you hear used often in the U.S.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, sliding doors. You got anything else on sliding doors?
I don't know. Yeah.
10 out of 10. It had sliding doors.
Yeah. There were, a lot of sliding doors. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So should people watch this?
Whatever, man. Like this is one of a dearth. What's the word I'm looking for? Just like a big, large amount of a glut of romantic comedies from the 90s and early 2000s that do almost nothing to distinguish themselves from one another.
Oh.
But if I had to say anything, I would say at least the concept is interesting. Of following the two, and it's executed well from a film perspective. There was never there. I can't recall a point where I was ever like, which timeline are we in? That it ever mattered. There were points where I'm like, okay, I'd see a character because the male characters are not easy to distinguish.
Right.
When you're only seeing Jerry or James, you can't always immediately distinguish, and they use that to their advantage sometimes.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a time where I was meant to know what timeline we were in, where I was ever going, what timeline are we in? Yeah. I don't know. So that was great. They kept that up and they pulled off the whole thing without doing some cheesy thing like going into like, black and white or Technicolor or like sepia or whatever for like one of the timelines.
I feel like there have been other movies or shows where there's alternate timelines and they do stuff with lighting or whatever,
color grading, lighting.
And they didn't do any of that. And there were, fractions of a second where you see Anna or Jerry and you're like, wait, which one are we? But then you figure it out quickly.
It was you either figured it out quickly or it just wasn't important for you to know what timeline you were in at that moment.
I did think it was interesting. There were a couple of scenes, I think, when they're in the restaurant in the beginning, in both timelines, Helen ends up in this particular restaurant and they do some interesting things with camera work where, you see Helen and Jerry walk into this booth that's off screen and then the camera shifts and there's the other timeline and there's nobody there. And I kind of enjoy, and then on the boats too, they do that too.
There's a point where Anna walks in that restaurant where, the long hair timeline couple goes over and sits and then it freezes on the door of the restaurant. Anna walks in and walks pan over to short hair timeline.
Because in that timeline, they're not there. She's over there,
there's the thing with the rowing.
Yeah.
The Helen is on a little follow behind boat cheering on James as he's rowing.
Yeah.
And then cut to the bank where Helen's walking with Anna and you can see the boat and the background, you can see the following vehicle and she's not
there. Yeah. Everyone else who was there is there, but she's not.
Yeah.
Then nice she says, I just knew there'd be a race here. Purple and white, which I thought was, and there's a couple of other things where it's like, oh, the timelines are getting close to intersecting. And in both of them, she kind of faints.
That was
and I was like, I don't really understand what that's supposed to mean.
It was very underdeveloped. Like, I feel like they wanted to do something there where like the two timelines were seeping into each other. Or something like there's probably a much more fleshed out version of this in the script where like, it's much more timey-wimey, like sci-fi sort of, or like, fantasy, like how is this happening? And these two timelines are, there's some doctor that explains it or, whatever. Or there's some, what I was expecting more was, long hair timeline, Helen, runs out. She doesn't fall down the stairs. She runs out almost gets hit by a truck that swerves and hits short hair timeline Helen.
Oh, geez.
Like that kind of stuff is more like what I was expecting.
Oh, wow.
Them to maybe go with in the climax, but instead they just both separately got a trauma. And then, so there was some, I was thinking like, are they going to go there? Because like you said, there have been a couple of little hints of like the timelines being connected, bleeding together. And then I'm thinking like, what?
Yeah. Well, here's a final question. So, in the timeline where Helen falls down the stairs, she's just learned that Lydia is pregnant with Jerry's baby.
Yes.
Lydia had broken up with Jerry because she couldn't handle being second fiddle.
Right. She wanted to be.
But then now she's pregnant. So is Jerry stuck with this drama queen forever?
Oh yeah.
That's kind of delicious. Like that's
totally.
I mean, too bad for their child.
Or there is an equal chance that she's not pregnant at all.
Well, no, because she showed him a stick.
Oh, what does that matter?
Oh, you think she went full on Gone Girl and is faking it?
Or maybe she also maybe that's
fell
the
down
stick
the stairs.
from the first from Helen. Maybe she was snooping around the trash and found the stick from Helen.
Oh, that's true. She was hanging outside that. Yeah. She's. I mean, in a different movie, Lydia would be this full on like Fatal Attraction stalker. Like she shows up at Jerry and Helen's house and is standing outside the window. I mean, nose to the glass. And Jerry pulls open the blade and the blinds, and she's right there. And he goes, "Jesus Christ!" And has to play it off like he's responding to something Helen said. Like that's amazing. And then she's gone. I'm like, she's giving major stalker energy, and it's very entertaining. She's terrifying.
Yeah. But, just like there's a more multiverse focused version of this script, there's probably a darker version of this script.
Oh yeah. I do now enjoy Triple Heart. Like I've seen The Firm has been on several times in the last year or so, and I watched bits of it. And she's a very meek character in that. Not meek. She's much meeker than Lydia. Put it that way. But watching that with this character in mind, it's like Abby McDeer is going to go full crazy with because she's got dinner now. So.
Yeah, is she in Basic Instinct?
I don't know. She's in Big Love.
I think I want to say she was.
I haven't seen Basic Instinct. I don't know.
It's you know what happens.
I do.
That's a thing.
It's
not impressive. Like
I didn't need to know that.
Just as like a 14-year-old who watched that on Showtime, I was literally like, "Is that it? Like, is that it? Come on. Is that it?"
Okay, so that's Sliding Doors, folks. But we would love to hear from you. What did you think of this movie? Did you perhaps have an ill-advised pixie cut sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s? When did you learn that Gwyneth Paltrow was in fact not British?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that John Lynch is also a sad sack? Have you seen him in something where he plays an alpha? Does he have that range? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie, on, agreeing with us, disagreeing with us, whatever. You can either tweet at us or send us an email. Our handle at Twitter or Gmail is the same. It is YSMY podcast for both, YSMY for You Show Me Yours. And we are back to our regular posting schedule of every other week, every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, you can find a new episode on most of your major podcast providers, specifically Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And while you were there, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe so you will always get the latest episode in your feed. And rate and review just tells us that you like us and that you love us. We need that a little bit. And speaking of our next episode, what is our next episode going to be, David?
Desert planet.
What?
Dune. Spice. Arrakis.
What?
Desert planet. Arrakis.
Oh boy.
It's Dune.
Okay.
It's Dune.
Okay.
The old Dune.
Okay.
We're going to record that before I watch the new Dune because I don't want to poison my recollections of the old Dune with new information from the new Dune. So it's going to be Dune. I'm trying to see how many times I can say Dune.
I'm imagining I'm singing along to Blue Moon in my head. New Dune, yes, you saw me standing alone. New Dune. Okay,
lovely.
I've been singing throughout this whole thing.
You're gonna know all about Arrakis,
about New Dune and Old Dune,
desert planet.
Arrakis. Oh my gosh! Would you stop? Okay, so we're gonna do that in 2 weeks.
We are in 2 weeks.
Tune in for that. We'll see you then. Until then, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io.
New Dune, you saw me standing alone. If I saw the movie, I could come up with better lyrics. Do 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 do.